What is up, everybody? Welcome back to a brand new video on Lexalexus. Today it is the championship review of match day 8. What an incredible weekend we've had of championship games, and it doesn't end yet. We still got one championship game left to record this weekend, and that of course is Middlesbrough versus Sunderland, which I will be doing a watch on, so guys, keep your eyes on that. The updated standings of the prediction league will be presented after that game has taken place. If you guys like what you see, please give the video a like. It just reminds you out the channel. Please continue hitting the subscribe button, as it really helps to grow this channel as we're trying to close in to 2,000 subscribers. It'll be an incredible achievement if we can get there. And please also share the channel too. All of that really helps to grow this channel as well. But without any further ado, let's start talking through what happened in this weekend's games. Let's talk about the first game, which I did a watch along for on the Friday. It was West Brom 1, Burnley 1. It was what I predicted right before the game. If you can see the attack momentum there, it's another typical performance from West Brom when they look the more dangerous team to get something. But what I've noticed from West Brom already this season is that they do have a poor habit of looking a little bit slow going forward and just holding too much of the ball. We were praising Burnley for how much they hold the ball, but as you can see here, to make my point valid, West Brom actually had more of the ball than what Burnley did. 53% of the possession went to West Brom this time, 23 shots to 11, 8 on target to the 4 there. So it's looking like, once again, you know, West Brom looking incredibly wasteful, as in 1 in every 3 shots is only 1 of them going on target. With Burnley, they had 11 shots, 4 on target, and you know, a similar problem really. Just like with West Brom, actually a very similar accuracy in terms of their clinical and cutting edge in terms of shots on target to their total shots. Every 3 shots for Burnley was also on target as well. So both teams going forward definitely need to try and address them trying to look more threatening in their attack in terms of them going forward there. As you can see with the table, it puts Burnley in 5th and West Brom still with only 1 win this season down in 16th place. Burnley took the lead with a penalty decision, so it was a goal kick, or pretty much a long clearance by Muric in the Burnley goal. It was a brilliant, exquisite touch by Nathan Teller, went one-on-one, Button brought him down, definite penalty, and it was definitely scored by Jay Rodriguez, who actually was a West Brom player as well, not so long ago, scoring 20 plus goals there, so he did score against his former club, didn't celebrate of course. And in the second half, it did look like that West Brom were just going to be frustrated again, probing and having many chances, but just not being able to break this Burnley side down. But brand new debutant signing Thomas Asante managed to get the equalising goal in the 98th minute of 8 minutes of added time. Literally the last kick of the game. What a time to get your debut goal. And it saves another point for West Brom, but there's a real problem with them. I know they've only lost 1 game, but out of the 8 games, 6 of them have been draws, and that's going to be a real issue for West Brom, and it could prove to be damning, especially if they do miss out on top 6. As with Burnley, bit of a similar predicament really, 4 draws in the opening 8, although having said that, they have managed to turn more of those draws into wins, Burnley, and I feel like they'll take a 5th place at the moment. I think Burnley, for the fact that I don't think they were particularly at their best, especially in the first half. I thought the first half they were actually quite poor despite taking the lead. I thought Burnley actually overall to even get something there, I felt they did okay, but to lose out on 3 points in the 98th minute is going to be really tough for Burnley going forward there. Now we cover the 3 o'clock games. Let's start off with Blackburn 2, Bristol City 3. So I was right for a Bristol City win, but definitely should have predicted a couple more goals in this game. That front 3 for Bristol City is looking incredibly dangerous. Conway and Nahki Wells collecting the 3 goals respectively between them. Nahki Wells now getting more on the score sheet this time. Tommy Conway once again having a real standout season for me. And he's definitely been a brilliant impact for the fact he's keeping the likes of Chris Martin out of the squad, who's full of championship experience as well. That really does tell you a lot for what Conway's doing to keep really tough competition. And Vyman keeping out the competition of Semenyo as well. Bristol City got options in attack. Defence, though, definitely needs some work so far. They did concede 2 goals, and Tyree Stonen and Ben Brereton Diaz were the 2 goal scorers in their part, both relatively worked goals there. There was 1 goal for Bristol City that could have arguably been a bit controversial. It was the 3rd goal that they had with Naki Wells, which looked like the ball just squirmed over the line through a little bit of a mishap there. And the goal line technology system said that the ball did cross the line, and it was awarded a Bristol City goal. Now, Bristol City, with that win, puts them in 4th place in the table. And it's been a long, long time. You know, I remember, I think it was maybe 2018, you know, when Bristol City were in around the top 2 at Christmas time. Since then, Bristol City have not even had a sniff of being in the top 6 at all in that time period. So now they're in this position, Bristol City is going to be very interested to see if they can keep that. Defensively, I think they're a bit weak, but with their attacking play, it could potentially compensate with the lack of ability they have in the back. As with Blackburn, they've now fallen out of the top 6 for the first time this season, and that can be a real issue because it's 4 defeats in 5. And right now, despite scoring quite a fair bit, you know, looking very tight at the back at the start of the season, Blackburn, they're now conceding very silly goals now. And I mean, I wouldn't say silly goals is the right word for this game. I think Bristol City's goals, you know, if not all of them, were well-worked counter-attacking goals. But Blackburn not to be defensively organised in those moments is something that they really going to have to address in future games. We had one hell of a comeback at Kenilworth Road. Luton 1, Wigan Athletic 2. It's their 2nd away win of the season, Luton Town. And I've got to say, I did not expect this at all. You know, when Luton got their lead in the 39th minute with Colton Morris, and as you can see there, they really dominated the first half there. I thought Luton were going to be very comfortable and run away with this almost there. So Morris got the goal, made it 1-0 at half time. And I don't know what Liam Richardson did, and I need to look into what he's done. But for whatever he's done, whilst Wigan didn't quite probe on with the attack momentum, they did edge Luton in this game. And it could potentially be Luton were very, very poor, apart from this one small period there in the second half. They really were non-existent and didn't look like that they were trying to get a second goal. They were almost thinking that they were arrogant enough and they only needed the 1 goal. Well, Tom Lockyer got an own goal, very unlucky own goal. It was a bit of a deflection, you know, any sort of defender in that position, you know, would feel bad about it, but it's definitely not Tom Lockyer's fault. But the moment in itself, you know, wasn't very well cleared at all by that Luton back line, and it could have been very avoidable. And Philo Asgard, which is a great name, by the way, 88th minute, what a strike that was. Just outside of the box, past the reach of ball, about to make it 2-1. Literally right out of nothing, and Wigan, with a superpower of a strike, now overtake Luton in the table in 15th place with 10 points. Only 2 wins this season, which have both come, as I said, in away games, as with Luton. Still only 2 wins for them, and I don't know how I feel about Luton this year, you know. I do think they have still got quality there, but, you know, I can't write them off because Luton did have a stage last year where they were, you know, teetering around 17th where they are right now. And finally, they start getting a bit of consistency in. I think if it goes like this a little bit longer for like 3 or 4 games and Luton still show a bit of inconsistency, this is when I'll have to investigate and think, okay, why are Luton not performing at the level that they were? It could potentially be pressures now getting to them, you know, expectations now increased as well. So those sorts of challenges are going to be stuff that's really going to be more prominent to Luton more than ever now. But as with Wigan, what a win this is, and hopefully that may kickstart for what could be a really good season for the Lactics. Millwall got back to winning ways after losing 3 games in a row. They go back to the den and they show it how it's done with a 2-0 victory over Cardiff. Nearly a perfect home record, minus that 1-0 defeat they had at home to Reading. They've been flawless in every other home game, and it showed in this game here. And 2 relatively latish goals. Charlie Cresswell with another headed goal. You may remember that he got, you know, a couple of headed goals in the first game he had of the season there. It was poor defending from that Cardiff back line. Just once again, Charlie Cresswell managing to run into a great position. Not enough people closing him down. Clean header makes it 1-0 past the reach of Allsop. And it made things, you know, game, set and match. When Charlie Cresswell again was involved, gave the ball to Afobe. Nice bit of improvisation, using his head and his chest to try and keep control of the ball, making it 2-0 to Millwall. And that really does recover Millwall's position in the table. And they're now 14th place in around that mid-table position. As you saw here, those 3 defeats in a row, they've now addressed that with that win. Cardiff, are winless in their last 5 and are looking very perilous now. After looking so promising, actually, with their 2 great home wins, it's now looking a little bit dangerous now for this Cardiff team. They definitely need to watch out, because I definitely think right now they still got all the quality there in that squad. They had a couple of injuries to their new signers, Jamina Collins, as an example. You wouldn't see Nkuku, in that general position there. A couple of their star players are getting injured, but even with that, no excuse really. And by the looks of things there, Cardiff just missed chance after chance. 2 big chances missed. Twice they've hit the woodwork as well. So potentially it could have been a whole other result had Cardiff taken those chances. But Millwall did take those chances, and therefore they are now definitely reaping their rewards. Norwich continue their revival in the Championship with a 3-0 victory over struggling Coventry, who right now are looking very perilous right now. So Coventry are last place in the table with only 1 point on the board. That is really not great for them at all. And one thing I will say about Coventry's start of the season, and with this game in particular, I actually thought Coventry weren't that bad. I knew they lost by 3-0, but based on what I've seen in the highlights, they actually did ask Norwich some questions and they did actually threaten their goal. The problem is that defensively, they've been way too open and just not enough fight to stop and prevent Norwich getting those goals in. The first goal, for instance, Hamer gets tackled by Nunez or people, gets a through ball in to find Pukki, who's not scored a goal so far this season, and then within the first, couple of 15 minutes in the game, Teemu Pukki scores. And from that moment onwards, it just was going to be one-way traffic in terms of goals going into the net. Whilst, Coventry did threaten, and they did have a goal disallowed, actually, it was definitely Norwich who just looked more confident, going forward. Sargent got the second one, and then Kieran Dow making it game set match, making it 3-0. And whilst Coventry had spells, they just did look like they lacked a cutting edge, lacking that confidence. And now that Norwich have got this great form on their hands, it is 5 wins in a row for Norwich right now. They're now going to be playing with a lot of confidence. And following this, and Norwich are pretty comfortably, within the top 6 at least, and are currently in second place as of right now. As with Coventry, I definitely think they can recover, but I keep saying this, if they stay in the bottom 4, by October, I think there'll be some alarm bells there. If you even look at the points, you may not see because my face will be in the way, but they are 7 points off 21st place Cardiff right now, and that could be really dangerous for them, especially, when you think about Middlesbrough being in 22nd. If they win against Sunderland, let's say, then the gap just increases to get out of the relegation zone. So Coventry are going to be very, very mindful of that and be very careful going forward. First tracks of Preston new season show. It's finally a defeat for this Preston team with a clean sheet. They could have equalled the most clean sheets at the start of the season consecutively, equaling Portsmouth's record. But Birmingham spoiled a party with a rare bit of quality. Jordan Graham with an exquisite cross and a gorgeous header won by Maxime Colan, making it 1-0 to the Blues. And following this, Preston just predictably not scoring again. Only 2 goals they've scored in 8 games so far this season. And that is the problem they're going to have, Preston, if they're not able to score first in this game. And what I will say, it was a pretty changed Birmingham team. We saw the likes of Bielik play, we saw T. Chong play, we saw an appearance by Hannibal Medbury as well at some point as well. Joe Bellingham made an appearance as well. So relatively changed team from this Birmingham side. And I've got to say, I think they actually did do well to limit this Preston team. But if you see this, it's same old story. 10 shots to 8, but only 3 on target. And despite having a much better attack momentum than Birmingham, it didn't look like that they used, it well to their advantage. What I mean is that they've held the ball, looking too slow there, build up. And Birmingham were just happy to try and sit back and defend. And look and behold, they did exactly that. And Birmingham, desperate for points, they got 3 of them, and now they are outside of the bottom 3, only by 2 points, and it could change, in terms of goal difference if Middlesbrough win tonight. But Birmingham needed this win, and they got it. And fair play to them, because no other team seemed to crack Preston until then right now. But Now the problems are going to show, and it's going to be interesting. Are Preston finally going to try and go a little bit braver going forward and to try and outscore teams? Because this is now going to be a problem if Preston do not address this. It's another draw for Rotherham. They drew 1-1 with Watford. Another good result for the team in Yorkshire as well. They scored the first goal of the Championship 3 o'clocks by a long way in the second minute. Wes Harding literally whipping a random ball in, and Richard Wood getting a connection past Batman to make it 1-0. It did feel very poor Watford's part for how easy they made it look. But Watford, to be fair to them, they did have the quality on the pitch, and eventually they did get something out of it. Bakunisu Bayo, who got a last-minute winner against Middlesbrough, scores again in this game to make it 2-2, to make it 1-1. Ken Seymour with the assist for that one there. But in the second half, by the looks of things, Rotherham had a good start. And the thing is with Rotherham, they tend to start games very, very well, but then suddenly it's like they run out of steam. I think Rotherham need to try and find a levelled approach in terms of maintaining an intensity throughout the whole game. That's the only thing I'd say that they need to work on. That's with Watford. By the looks of things, if they're going to keep all the players that they have, they need to try and utilise them to their advantage. I could only assume that Ismail Assar is injured. If he's not injured and he's not deliberately being in the squad, then that's going to be some massive problems for Watford going forward. They definitely need to investigate the situation with Assar. If he is injured, then I'll hold my hands up. You know, we're just going to have to be patient, and Watford fans are going to have to try and cope without him for now. But this game really needed someone like Assar just to really have a sudden burst of pace and to really make Wes Harding, Richard Wood and Lee Peltier work twice as hard. So definitely were missing that flair, but they did well in the end to get a point. Probably disappointing they didn't get all three. The final 3 o'clock game saw Swansea pick up a 1-0 win over QPR. It was the first win for Swansea for quite some time. You may see here, you know, they had a period of 4 games without a win, and now they picked up a win, and Swansea in 18th place, looking a little bit better about their chances right now. But with QPR, they were the team in form. They had 2 wins in a row going into this game. And now with a loss here, it just proves that I think QPR are going to be a bit of an inconsistent team this season. And I think the best way to put it is just wasn't their day. You know, right from the get-go, they conceded a penalty with a handball, I think a very harsh handball. Joel Pira stepped up, and despite Dieng saying, about 5 minutes later, Joel Pira gets a goal on his own to make it 1-0. That was the only goal in the game, and it was interesting actually seeing the changed Swansea team. Bender, for instance, wasn't in the squad, and he got a clean sheet here, you know, filling in for Andy Fisher. We saw Joel Pira actually get a 5.8, you know, despite him scoring the goal, potentially for that penalty miss, which I think was a little bit harsh. But that back line, you know, getting really good ratings there, and that's what I really want to see with Swansea, to see if they can improve when they're under pressure, and it looks like they did. They even outshot QPR, more shots on target, more corners, more offsides, more big chances, 6 big chances, and 5 missed. It was a brilliant performance by the Swansea team, and probably should have scored more based on those stats here, but with QPR, most definitely an off day for them. And if they do want to be right up there in like the top part of the table, they've got to try and iron out this inconsistency and try and get the same momentum that they had when they won 2 games in a row, because they're definitely capable of doing it. They've got the squad for it, but now I'm just having my doubts whether they've got the mindset to keep that sort of intensity throughout a whole season now. Let's go to Sunday's games now. Let's go to the game I actually watched live with you guys. It was Reading 2, Stoke 1. I've already explained quite a lot of my views in this game, so I won't go into too much detail about it. In short, I thought Reading actually coped well. I thought Stoke on the ball looked better than what Reading did, but Reading going forward looked really dangerous. And for the fact they got that early goal, which was an awful mistake from Jack Bonham, and Lumley will be given a lot of credit for the goal kick there. Bounces right over Jack Bonham, and Lucas João on his birthday scoring that goal to make it 1-0, one of the easiest goals he's scored. You could argue Flint should have done better to try and clear it out as well. Since then, Stoke really piled up the pressure, and eventually, after a lot of patience actually, and barely testing Lumley in goal, they get a small break for them from a corner. Tom McIntyre doesn't react in time to get Ben Wilmore, takes off a deflection of Thijs Fornal's hand past the reach of Lumley to make it 1-1. But what disappointed me is that despite Stoke getting that equaliser, it didn't look like at a stage where they looked like that they were going to build on from that. And actually, 12 minutes into the second half, Reading win a penalty. Very poor challenge by the scorer, Ben Wilmot, who goes from 0 to 0 in a matter of minutes. Lucas Giles steps up, very confident penalty, 2-1 Reading. And despite that, I felt Reading actually were the closest to scoring another one, to be honest. This was in the first half where Shane Long missed an absolute sitter. And Stoke, for me, didn't really give that much threat to Reading at all. Despite holding the ball, they just lacked that cutting edge, that confidence, that belief in the final third. And Reading had it all. They maintained their 100% start at home, Reading. 5 wins, in their opening 8 games, sees them in 3rd place in the table. Stoke fall down to 19th, only 1 point picked up by Alex Neil since he's taken over. Very honest interview by him as well. Is he going to be the manager that can turn Stoke's fortunes around? I feel like they've looked at him turning Sunderland's fortunes around. We'll see if he will be a miracle worker and get this Stoke side, where they really should be, because they've just been underperforming since really they've been relegated, to be honest. And I think they are a broken team and they really need a level-headed guy to try and get them back to where they need to be, because it was another poor performance by Stoke. Huddersfield at Blackpool ended 1-0 to Blackpool. Undoubtedly a controversial game, to say the least. So Huddersfield, as you can see there, for about 80% of the game had the better attack momentum. If you look at the stats, 15 shots to 7, 6 shots on target to 2. Blackpool only had 2 shots on target, and one of them was their goal. We're seeing this a lot with Blackpool, and it reminds me of when Blackburn started the season, where they don't create lots, but they're so clinical at what they do that they still manage to get the win anyway, and they good organisation is what's getting them the points in the end. And that's exactly what Blackpool did. They got that goal, they were organised, and in fact the goal came in with brilliant work by Gabriel, running for the whole length of the pitch. Gets it to Poveda, where his shot hits the post, and then Theo Cabino, right place, right time, makes it 1-0 to Blackpool there. But the controversial moment is, should have Huddersfield got an equaliser? There was an incident in around the second half where the ball looked like it went over the line, and in one angle it did, one angle it didn't. And what surprised me, because I did mention about one of Bristol City's goals, not looking like it went across the line, but they used goal line technology and they did notice the ball did cross the line and they awarded Bristol City the goal. That shot to me looked even more obvious it was over the line than that Bristol City one, but it wasn't given. I don't think technology actually gave it a goal, which really surprised me. And had that goal been given, Huddersfield could have been on the ascendancy to try and get something there. So definitely wasn't their day, and it's definitely not looking good in terms of the table. They are 23rd, 4 points off safety from Cardiff at the moment, and if things don't improve in the next couple of weeks, it could go to a situation where they're going to have to try and get someone new in, which at this point, I feel like the squad has got potential, but definitely performing a bit of a playoff hangover and definitely underperforming this year. With Blackpool, following this win, and they picked up some really great wins already this season, Blackpool, I've got to say, especially away from home. They're now up to 11th, joint on points with their Lancashire rivals Preston. And honestly, I've got to give a huge amount of credit to Appleton. I think he's really proven a lot of us wrong, including me. We spoke about Paul Ince and Reading proving people wrong. But I think Michael Appleton and Blackpool also deserve some plaudits for how they've been able to cope with not having Medine in this game, not having Josh Bowler, still getting a win in this game. Absolutely full credit to Appleton and Blackpool there. The final game to talk about is Hull City 0, Sheffield United 2. A much more open game than I expected, and it was a very heavily populated MKM stadium, honestly. I think we had over 25,000 at one stage, which is absolutely insane. Unfortunately for the Hull City hopefuls, it wasn't a home win, and actually they won all their home games leading up to this game. This is their first home defeat of the season. Fortunately, it didn't really go their way since Sander Berger and Oliver McBurney, who got the first goal, condemned Hull to a defeat. But having said that, how Estupiñán didn't score, I had no idea how he did not score that there. I mean, honestly, he was put one-on-one. Foderingham makes an incredible double save, don't get me wrong, but how do you miss from there? It's easier to score than to miss. And Tufan had another big chance as well. So Hull City maybe on another day could have got something slightly better in this game. But Sheffield United on the day were just simply unstoppable. I think their organisation is great, and I feel like they're definitely keeping in mind about the consistency of the performances. A lot of these players were in Sheffield United in the Championship last year and are definitely determined to get them back to the promised land that is the Premier League. As with Hull, decent start to the season, but clearly squad is not quite there yet, but they're just going to have to try and improve on some consistency. So let's look at the table talking about this weekend's games. So Sheffield United up to the top of the Championship now with Norwich close behind. Reading, Bristol City, Burnley and Watford, the other teams in the top 6. If you're looking at the teams in danger, I basically would probably put Rotherham downwards as all the teams in danger so far. So in the bottom half of the table, for the fact that there's only 2 points separating 13th and 21st, it is incredibly tight in that stage of the table. So guys, that will wrap it up for my Championship review for today. If you guys enjoyed it, please give the video a like. It just joins out the channel. Please do hit the subscribe button if you've not done so, as we are trying to push 2,000 subscribers. That also really helps the channel as well. And please also share the channel as well. All of that helps the growth of this channel too. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are legendary historian in this video. As always, I'll see you guys soon. Take care, everyone.